And welcome back to Shovicks Sports Shit. I'm Cory.
And I am Austin.
A little mixed bag today. We're going to talk a little MLB Trade Deadline, uh, plethora of moves. We're not going to cover all of them. We're going to cover some of the, I guess if you want to call them big trades. Um, and then a sneaky good trade that the Cubs made. And then some of the Royals trades. A couple notes first. Real excited. We've gained about 22 followers on Instagram last week. Uh, we had a listener from the UK, which is awesome. If you're listening in the UK, we absolutely want you to come on the show. One, to talk football. I know there's a lot of good NFL football that comes to you guys over there. I'm sorry that it has to be the Jaguars almost every time, but you at least get to see, you got to see the Dolphins Chiefs last year. So if you're listening in the UK, you want to come on the show, I know you follow us on Instagram. Come find us. We'd love to have you on. I know there's another person we're working on to bring on to talk some college football in the next couple of weeks. Uh, you know, we actually talked yesterday about we'd kind of like to sprinkle in some more college football. Uh, you know, we do have a following that, they like college football. We obviously love KU football. We actually really are big college football fans in general, especially over the last few years. We've actually gotten way into college football almost as much as we do the NFL. So we're working on that. Hopefully, we'll get him on in the next couple of weeks. I know he had a top 5 Heisman list that he came up with that I'd be real excited to talk to him about and chop it up with him. What's your thoughts on, possibly getting some guests on here?
I think it'd be awesome for the simple fact that, we did this because we love talking sports. Getting to talk sports with different people, different point of views, different countries, states. I think that's always exciting to do.
And yes,
So,
yes, Dakota, we'll get you on here at some point again too.
yeah, always. But I like seeing different perspectives. You kind of get caught up seeing things a certain way or thinking a certain way. So talking sports and different perspectives. It's kind of fun, different opinions, different ideas, different thoughts. It's always fun when you can talk sports, honestly.
Yeah, and I think the wide variety of it. So, college football, or, when Dakota comes on, we can talk football and sports. And we talked hockey a lot last time with Dakota too. So, we're always open to it. We love talking it. I know that typically we kind of tend to stay towards the Chiefs, Broncos, and certain teams, but we'll talk anything. It is kind of nice to see like an outside view of, yes, your favorite team is, let's say the Chargers, but you have an outside opinion of obviously the Chiefs and Broncos because you play in the same division. So it'd be kind of cool for that. Um, no Shovicks sports hits today. It is actually going to be 1, 2, and 3. Bobby Witt Jr. in the tear he's on since the All Star break. So this stat coming out of the All Star break, he obviously that homestand was like 9 of 11 and just raking. And then he hit the go ahead grand slam the other night against the White Sox. And at that time, he was hitting 575 since the All Star break and had more extra base hits, 9, than swing and miss, 8. What about the tear that Bobby's on right now?
I think it's unreal. Um, you get caught up watching him, and
So
well,
smooth and so beautiful.
it's one of those you kind of take it for granted, just because. Us being Royals fans, we've kind of watched even through the shitty days when he first came up. That what he's doing now, I don't want to say you expected it, but I don't think we're appreciating it as much as we should be. Uh, you kind of get caught up when you have those people come up through your system, or you see them through a couple bad years. Um,
Well, and think about the talent that the Royals have had that we lost via trade because we couldn't keep them and or they didn't want to stay. So now you're sitting here with a guy that this is basically our franchise the next decade.
yeah, first of all, I think it's awesome that we're able to keep talent, even if he's the only one that the Royals will ever sign to that kind of contract. I'm glad it was him. But we could go through pages of previous All Star
Guys that go
workforce.
on to do
Yeah,
organizations that just tear it up.
yeah, we could go through pages of that because small market team either didn't want to, couldn't, or the player didn't want to. Um, but I think it's awesome. I enjoy seeing. Now I have the opinion of Midwest and teams never quite get the love that I think they should. Not to say Bobby isn't getting love, uh, but he would be the talk of the entire sport if he was in New York. Um, with that being said, I have enjoyed starting to see uh, the quote unquote experts start talking about him as just the overall best player in the game. Um, Obviously, that's an opinion. No one's ever right. You can't definitively say who's the best. But just to see him being mentioned with the likes of, the Otani and Judges, and some people still throw Trout's name in there just out of respect, and like Mookie. But to hear his name thrown into that, it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, so you think of the state of Kansas City sports right now. Uh, Patrick Mahomes, obviously the face of the NFL. Bobby is, or really close to being, face of the Major League Baseball. So that's two top tier elite athletes. And I mean, I'm a Broncos fan, so I'm not, I don't care for the Chiefs that much. But when you know you grow up in the area, you kind of see how bad the Royals were for so long, and the Chiefs did have a stretch too. Let's be honest. I get the tear that they're on right now, but there was a time when the Chiefs weren't very good.
Most of my life.
There was times where they had the offense, Trent Green Day, Tony Gonzalez, Priest Holmes, all those guys, but the defense couldn't stop shit. So yes, I mean they made, and then the 2-14 season, right? Then they get Big Red. Obviously, the rest is history from there. And then the Royals, I think outside of the 2 years, 14 and 15, I mean, you can say 13 was okay.
That was the start of it.
And then 03 with Jose Lima when we were kids. I mean, cool, but I mean, let's be honest, for the most of our lives, they've been close to 90 plus losses almost every season. So yeah, I'm going to spend a little extra time talking about this because we have him. It's great. He's out. It's fun to watch. Um, there's times where we'd put the Royals on, but we kind of knew we weren't going to watch the whole game. Um, Now you kind of want to see what Bobby can do, and you get excited about it and seeing the cave full of fans again. Because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Kansas City has great fans. You put a product out there, they're going to show up all out Sundays. But even in the Chiefs' darkest days, they've still filled up the stands.
Yeah, because I mean, we're in the Midwest, so if the Chiefs even weren't good, you could still look forward to the game's best or one of the best tailgates and catching football, which that's about all you can do in the Midwest.
Well, and it's different for baseball. No one wants to go out and watch a 100-loss team in
No.
95-degree, especially the weather we've had lately.
Well, and it's, you have more than one game a week, so you're not going to get the sellouts because it's, the one game, and, there could be a 3-week stretch in the NFL where there's not going to be a game in Kansas City.
Exactly.
So people show out for that. So, but teams, the Royals fans, Kansas City fans, they show out for the baseball team if there's a product worth watching. And that's not necessarily the case all the time. I remember watching Tampa, the Rays during their heydays, and we'd turn on a game. Now, playoffs were different. They had some fans show up, but like their team was always just really good. And we'd watch games and we're like, why is there 300 fans here?
Yeah, they still have one of the bottom attendance.
Yeah.
So I do have a stat here. Now I can update this because Bob had a couple hits today against the White Sox. So he technically only had one hitless game in July. I think they said that was July 13th. He went 0 for 4. Listening to the game today, HUD was like, I'd be interested to see what he did in that 0 for 4. But this was from Royals Review, and this was a couple days ago. 2 games to go this month, but the best month ever in Royals history by OPS. Minimum 50 plate appearances was George Brett. Obviously, when it's the Royals, it's usually George Brett. April 1983 with a 1.448, which is a slash line of 460, 528, 921. And then John Mayberry, June 1972 with a 1.365, which was a slash line of 471, 526, and 838. And then you have Bobby, July 2024, a 1363, which was a slash line of 488, 506, 857. And then obviously, again, George Brett, July 1980, 1.353, which was slash line of 494, 541, and 812. George was just unconscious, obviously, in that 1980 season. But it is nice to see that we have someone who can be mentioned with George, right? Because it's always been George, George, George. Well, now we got Bobby. And I'm not saying he's going to be. I still don't think he's going to be George Brett when it's all said and done, but I think he's going to get close. And there is that small possibility that he does end up being better than George Brett.
Yeah, long ways to go for that. But
Yeah, he's
I was
still got a
actually
while.
going to mention earlier, so nice little transition to it. But when we were first talking about Bobby and what he's doing, listeners, you've kind of noticed I'm pretty old school with what I enjoy in sports, and I was going to compare Bobby to George from the fact that from the moment he steps on the diamond to the time he steps off, he's full effort. Um, just like George Brett, uh, I know not a lot of people care about that. It's all the slick plays or home runs or extra base hits, but I love the fact that he'll ground out to second base, easy routine out. Everyone else may be jogging. He's still full sprints, no matter what, every time.
The bloop singles turned into doubles.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate. Obviously, his production numbers are going to be there. That's what gets you paid. Uh, but his effort alone is why I enjoy tuning in. Uh, for that, I have no doubt that he will. I'm not going to say pass him, but I have no doubt that he can at least, barring, just disasters, injuries, nothing we will hope on anyone. Uh, no doubt that he can be mentioned in the same breath as George Brett.
Well, one of the clips that went viral in the White Sox series was the game that Bobby had the grand slam. Steve Stone, one of the White Sox broadcasters, talked about it. To your point, dude always hustles. He's smooth. There's never a play he takes off. Um, even those routine ground balls. And he did say, and I know we're still up in the air on this, but we get it, that he would take Bobby over Shohei if he were to start a team. I think the young factor comes into that. Um, just he's so young. But
Well, you have both, where he's younger, and his contract it's less than it's like half of Otani's. I am still up in the air on that. Uh, Obviously, the Royals fan in me is like, fuck yeah. But trying to be realistic, even if you only get 5 more quality years of DHing and Otani returns to pitching, uh, that's 5 years. I don't know. That's a tough call. But the fact that we can debate it's pretty cool.
it is. And so the last thing I'm going to say on the Bobby Witt train, um, we're pretty in agreement that there's probably going to be Aaron Judge for MVP. Um, but I do believe if Bobby stays on this track, he's going to make it real interesting. Uh, I hope that it doesn't come into play where he is a Kansas City player, so whatnot. And I'm not going to take anything away from what Judge is doing. Judge is actually on a pretty good tear himself to the start, this far into the season. I still lean towards Judge being MVP, but Bob's going to make it really close.
Yeah, and it really depends what the final lines end up being. Uh, Bobby's obviously going to have the average and kind of the steals with respectable home run and RBIs, and Judge is going to have he's still going to have a good average, but his home runs and RBIs are obviously going to be a big part of that. So I'd be curious to see when the numbers finish or we get closer to the end of the season. Because right now, Judge twice as many home runs, damn near 30 more RBIs, and still hitting. I know it doesn't sound, he's hitting over 300, which right now is like hitting over 700 just a decade ago, feels like. So it's not to take anything away from Trout, um, or not Trout, but Judge. I do think it's become a three person race with Judge, Bobby, and Henderson. Henderson lacks the average, I think, which is why I'd put him third. But uh, even to be just right there in an MVP race, usually a Royals player, even if they're doing good, they have 20 wins right now, so they're just kind of not considered.
Well, I think the closest one that we had was Locane in 15. He had a damn good season too. Nowhere near what Bobby's doing now, but I think that was the last one who was really in the conversation for MVP. So moving on, just before we get to the trades, congratulations, Jackson Holiday. Took you long enough. You're still hitting 083, but you had your grand slam today, and you absolutely tattered that ball. Congrats to you. I wasn't sure if the Orioles were going to move you uh, for the, maybe to get Scooble. They decided against it. And I mean, honestly, for the game, I hope he does figure it out, because I mean that's a good young player. Uh, Obviously, coming from his background, Matt Holliday, his dad had a really good career. Um, I think even if he had half of what his dad did, that's still a pretty good career, because Matt had a pretty good career himself. So congrats to Jackson Holiday for his first major league grand slam.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was called back up. He's young and exciting. I thought they would have traded him too if the return was good enough. Uh, the return probably wasn't good enough, but talk about a team that's set up for a while. I'm curious to see how all those contracts shape out, or if someone's going to have to be a captain. I mean, you got Rutschman, Henderson. If Holiday pans out, Westberg. I mean, they're loaded.
Yeah, and they also made a plethora of trades. They did acquire Eloy Jimenez from the White Sox. Good bat. You know, I think in order to get to where you need to be in the postseason, especially when you're playing in that division, you got to maintain your offense. Pitching, I think their pitching's fine. Obviously, Corbin Burns is doing just fine. Obviously, he was an all-star. Uh, I didn't really see, of all the talk of Luis Robert being the guy that they moved, uh, were you surprised by it being Eloy Jimenez instead?
Uh, yes and no. I think you see it a lot where a superstar like Luis Robert is the one that's being talked about. So I bet that's where the call started. Uh, Orioles were probably like, okay, the asking price is too much. Let's pivot to your next bat, which is Eloy Jimenez. Been kind of a mixed bag, big time prospect at one point. Um, Honestly, who knows if it's not just a product of playing for the White Sox. I'm not even saying that as a Cubs fan. I'm just being honest. They have they've been embarrassing for the better part of his career. Now, granted, he's battled injuries, but go into a team like the Orioles, surrounded by the exact opposite of what he spent his career around. I think it's a low risk, high reward move. I think one that's not talked about enough. They trade Hayes to get some other people and then fill that spot with Eloy Jimenez. Good moves. I still don't know if I trust their pitching staff enough. But when you have a lineup and the depth that they do, I like it. But yeah, I'm not surprised it was Eloy instead. A lot of times when it's a superstar, teams balk at that, so they pivot to the next best, and that was Jimenez.
Yeah, so they also got Taylor Rogers, Zach Eflin, and then the one that you were talking about, Sir Anthony Dominguez from the Phillies for Austin Hayes. Orioles are active; they truly were, and I mean, I would be too. I mean, you're right there. You're one of the better teams in the AL and in the MLB. Um, you know, there's almost a such thing as too much. Like you don't want to completely destroy what you have. And I mean, you gave up some prospects for all these guys outside of Austin Hayes, but I do think it's an upgrade having Eloy Jimenez over Austin Hayes. Um, so what's your overall take on the Orioles?
I don't know them well enough to know who their number 2 and number 3 starter is. They're a team I think we can just look ahead and look at the postseason. I mean, that's what they're chalked up for. You usually use 3 starters. Once I get past Corbin Burn, I don't know how they stack up. They bolstered their bullpen, no doubt about that. Never a bad thing. I can't say with full confidence that behind Corbin Burns, I feel confident in a playoff series with them. They're putting a lot of pressure on their lineup. Uh, with that being said, it's not like the Yankees have a great starting staff. Um, Garrett Cole hasn't quite been Garrett Cole yet. Marcus Stroman's Marcus Stroman. Started hot. Now he's doing what he always does. The Guardians and Royals, like pitching wise, I'm gonna take the Royals in a series against the Orioles, like straight up. Guardians, not exactly the pitching staff we're used to, so they're kind of following the trend. So then we do pivot to the lineup, and they probably do have the best lineup in baseball, top to bottom, which is good for them. So I think they're really going to need the matchups and seeding to fall in place. Uh, but they're not in a bad spot. So I think they should have done more for starting pitching instead of bullpen. But well, I'm just a couch GM, so um, I wouldn't be upset if the Orioles were my favorite team.
No, not at all. Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers. There were some talks that the Yankees backed out due to medicals. Uh, Yankees are pretty calculated on the moves that they make. I think they're kind of gun shy too after the Montas trade last year.
Well, and then when they signed Rodon,
Yeah,
that wasn't a trade, but they signed him, and he missed so much time. So
I get it. You're not really wanting to risk giving up prospects for Flaherty, though he's pitched extremely well. So the Dodgers keep getting richer. They were a part of a 3-team deal, White Sox and Cardinals. I'm looking for that one right now. So the Cardinals get Eric Petty from the White Sox. Dodgers get Tommy Edman, and then the White Sox receive prospects. I also believe the Cardinals got Tommy Pham, who hit a grand slam last night, so good for them.
so this trade
And Michael
involves
Kopech actually went to the Dodgers too in that deal. So I'm like, the Dodgers just keep getting richer. I mean, from what I was reading, it was only going to be a White Sox Cardinals type move, and then the Dodgers kind of snuck in, and I feel like they came away pretty fucking well off on that one.
Yeah, I mean, this trade involves 3 teams I don't like, 2 teams I absolutely dislike a lot, and then 1 team being my absolute least favorite. Um, we'll start with the White Sox. I don't think it was a good trade for them. They gave up Betty, whatever bullpen arm you just said,
Kopech.
and then Tommy Pham. Uh, I think they lacked the return. The obvious winner, I think Cardinals walked away best. TBD on Dodgers. You don't know how Tommy Edman's going to return. Michael Kopech. Dodgers seem to get the best out of players though. Um, let's not sleep that they got Ahmad Rosario and Kevin Kiermaier as well. So wild, but um, kind of an embarrassing trade for the White Sox. As much as it hurts to say, it was a great trade for the Cardinals. They got a more consistent, reliable outfield bat.
He just hits grand slams, obviously.
Not a superstar, but you know what you're getting. The Dylan Carlson train came to an end, and then they traded him as well. So they filled 2 huge needs, and then the Dodgers they got like 12 players, all MLB quality, so clear winners. But I don't know what the White Sox were thinking. Their scouting department obviously had to be higher on the players they got than everyone else. But the Dodgers and Cardinals fleeced that, and I don't think it was close.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Dylan Carlson, so the Rays get Carlson for ready reliever Sean Armstrong. Again, another good move for the Cardinals.
Great move.
Dylan Carlson was kind of on my short wish list for the Royals. I mean, he's coming off injury, so
just because he's affordable. Let's not say he's not our dream outfielder.
So if we could have gotten Dylan Carlson for, they wanted a relief pitcher, we could have given him Alec Marsh, or we could have even beefed it up and give him Will Klein, who we moved for someone else, obviously. So I mean, obviously the Royals, I think, and we'll get to them in a second, but the Cardinals knew what they needed, right? They weren't aggressive. They didn't get any like the big names. They didn't need to, right? Obviously, if you listened to us a month ago when we were talking about the Centrals, it doesn't take much. Obviously, the Centrals are a little bit more competitive than what we even thought they would be this year. And it's not like the Cardinals had a terrible roster to start with, right? I mean, they're hovering around 500. They know they needed a starting pitcher. They got it. They knew they needed a relief pitcher. They got it. And then they got a good plug and fill outfielder who, all else fails, he's going to be that, that badass attitude that you kind of need. the attitude of, we're not going to back down to anybody. Let's go, let's go win. And if you get in a fight, he's one on my team.
Yeah, and he was just in a World Series was it last year? Diamondback make it last year?
They did.
It seems so long ago. Uh, so he's got the postseason experience. Arguably the best pitcher that ended up getting traded. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't like the Cardinals. They did what they needed to do. They're still only, I think, like 5 games back of the Brewers. Absolutely doable. They probably have more games than that left with the Brewers, I would imagine.
And they still need they still need Arenado and Goldschmidt to stay consistent. I think that's the biggest difference this year is neither of those guys have had a season that they want.
Well, their younger guys are starting to pick it up. Mason Wynn's starting to be a really good MLB hitter. Uh, I can't say his name. It looks like Pages. That's not how you say it. He's come around and been a pretty decent hitter. So some of these other guys stepping up to take some pressure off of Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Contreras. I think that'll help a lot. I think that's where a little bit of their slump has come, where there was so much pressure on those three, uh,
Yeah.
where it was like, shit, if we're not hitting, what are we doing?
Because their pitchers aren't going to keep you. I mean, their pitchers aren't. They're okay, but we knew Sonny Gray was going to hit a wall at some point, and he seems to have hit that wall.
Yeah, and then you throw in, Burleson, he's coming around. Gorman's doing what Gorman does, incredible power. I hate the Cardinals, I really do, but uh, I'm not going to chalk up and say they're the favorite for a pennant or World Series trip or anything. But um,
They're at least setting themselves up for it, or to make the playoff push.
I don't see why they can't win the division. I still don't think they're on the level of the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Braves. Man, the injuries with them, that might be where the Cardinals are at right now. Pretty level with the incredibly hurt Braves, but all you have to do is make the postseason, and they've set themselves up for that. So uh, kudos to them. I know their front office takes heat a lot. Uh, this doesn't get them off the hook, I don't think.
No, you still got to win.
Yeah, but I think their willingness and showing that they can see what they need and go out and make it happen.
Because just a few weeks ago we were talking, are they going to sell?
Yep.
Like, are they going to get rid of Goldschmidt? Are they going to move on from Arenado? They've had a nice month, got themselves back in a good position, and then now look at them. Now they bought. So now you got to win. I mean, the front office is still going to get heat if they fall short.
Yeah, this at least, I don't want to say buys them a little bit of time or a little bit of love, but uh, with the heat they were taking, this should ease the burden a little bit. Uh, I don't know if they'll catch so much heat for not winning. I still think in the end, all the blame goes to the players. Players have to perform. The front office has put together a really good roster for the Cardinals, barring injuries or mismanagement by their manager, whatever. Uh, this team's going to be playing baseball, meaningful baseball, into September, probably October, and that's really all you can ask for each season.
Yeah. So Tanner Scott goes to the Padres. Padres always seem to make a big move, big splash. Our boy Jorge Soler goes back to the Braves. Obviously, we know what happens last time he was with the Braves. It's going to be an uphill climb for that, obviously. Then let's talk about this sneaky trade that's already kind of paying off. Jazz Chisholm to the Yankees.
My God.
First player in franchise history to have 4 home runs in the first 3 games as a Yankee. The dude is absolutely digging his time in the first week as a Yankee.
Yeah, and he's kind of rejuvenated that entire dugout, that entire clubhouse. I think one of my favorite quotes when he first got traded, they were kind of talking about positions to put him at and what to do. And they asked Gleyber Torres if he wanted to be a third baseman, and Gleyber Torres was like, "No, I'm a second baseman. That's where I play." And when they asked Jazz what he thought, and he's like, "I just want to go out there and play. Like wherever they want to put me to help them win, I want to do it."
Oh boy, is he.
And not to take away from the other players with the Yankees, but they don't necessarily have that. They kind of have the people who just show up and kind of do their job and like go to work. But this dude's bringing a little bit of vocals to a team that needs it, uh, a, a little bit of willingness, uh, and it's paying off early. I was it last night when looking through the box score, and I'm like, hey, the Phillies and the Yankees are tied 5-5, and it's Jazz has all 5 RBIs. So he's definitely digging New York, the change of scenery. I can't imagine what it's like going from one of the not better teams in baseball to immediately going into one of your top 2 or 3 teams in the league. I think that would rejuvenate me, though I don't like the Yankees. Uh, I think this long term is going to be the best move, not just of this trade deadlines, but for a lot of trade deadline deals over the years. This is going to be one of the better ones.
Yeah, so let's get into the Royals real quick. Um, we weren't sure how aggressive they were going to be. I know it got to a point where we're like, hey, maybe they realize we're not quite there. We were sitting here waiting. Well, finally, Monday, they made a move. They got Michael Lorenzen from the Rangers for Walter Pennington. I like the move. I love the move. He's already going to start. They're plugging him in Saturday. He's going to get on the bump. Uh, Alec Marsh is going AAA. They're going to break him down into a relief pitcher, which we've talked. I think we talked. One of our first reviews we did of the Royals season was it going to be Marsh or was it going to be Bubic? Well, Bubic went to the bullpen. Bubic has been lights out. Absolutely, just nails. Alec Marsh has been struggling. Weird because he had a really good start against the good teams, but he just gets slammed against the not so good teams. So I love this move. The next move, and I think we both were on board with what they were able to pull off with the A's and getting Lucas or Craig. Yes, we lost Will Klein in this deal, but I think in the long run, this is going to be the move. He pitched today, 2 strikeouts, one at 99 miles an hour, the second one at 100 miles an hour. Nasty slider, and then a good changeup. Dude's electric. I want him as the closer now. I love James McArthur. James McArthur is not a closer. He's not, and that's not to take anything away from him because he's still a damn good bullpen arm. I think he could solidify that 7th, 8th inning role. Hunter Harvey, who the Royals got a couple weeks ago, it seems like he's finally starting to maybe come around a little bit from a shaky start. But you could have your 7, 8, 9 for the next 3 years right there with that move.
Yeah, I like the move. Honestly, I liked all their moves. I do think before it's said and done, the A's reliever will be the closer. I think we're just trying to figure out what we have with him at the moment. His stuff is closer worthy. The closer role has a different mentality, different psyche to it than a different bullpen role. So maybe just trying to get a feel on that. I don't know if he's ever been a closer before, so definitely don't want to just throw him to it if we don't have to. His stuff will definitely play there. If he can handle it, he will be there sooner rather than later. Hunter Harvey will absolutely be an 8th inning guy once he gets his footing with us, which slowly starting to feel. I mean, it's not as simple as just going and pitching. I mean, you have new coaching staff, different strategies, new catchers, different sign. I mean, it takes time, especially when you only go out and pitch maybe 1 inning here and there. It takes a little bit. So I think he's finding his groove. Both moves, uh, elite moves. With the Royals farm system, they couldn't go out and get the elite level players. I mean, they just don't have what it takes. I think they did good with what they had. And Lorenzen, I was going to say we haven't had a 5-starter this good in a while, but there's been so many years with the Royals we haven't had a 2 or a 3-starter.
We had 4s and 5s as our ace.
Yeah, so I like that move as well. I don't know why the Rangers keep dealing with us.
Thanks, Chris Young.
Yeah, I obviously appreciate that, but all great moves. You get a starter, you 2 bullpen guys, you get Paul DeYoung. He's not going to be an everyday guy. Quality utility infield guy. Hit for a little more pop. Veteran presence. When you have a guy who's not going to play every day, I prefer the veteran route. They can handle that a little better. They've been through it a time or two. They've seen it. It's a little rougher for a young guy to try to come in and and be a role guy and not play every day. It's probably the first time it's ever happened for them in their baseball lives. Um, it took me a little bit to fully wrap my head around the DeYoung trade.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
And so at first I'm like, well, we have Bobby. We know he's not taking time from Bobby. We've been trying to play with Garcia to get him back to his normal, but we're not giving up on him. But then when I started to think about, he'd be our new Nicky Lawton. A couple starts a week, come in, play some defense,
Late inning bat.
and that got me excited. Nothing against Nick Lawton. Uh, I just Paul DeYoung's a little bit better for that role. So another quiet move. I think that opens up at bats in the outfield for Frazier and Hampson, which was the other need we were talking about. So getting a guy like DeYoung actually helps uh, shift a couple people for more outfield duties. So it doesn't completely take care of the outfield need, but it helps it a little bit still, even by not getting a specific outfielder. It helps what you had internally. Uh, so
And
it was a great deadline for the Royals. Given what they had, we weren't sure how much we could actually get. I think we got more than I could have expected without giving up a shit ton. The Wallace guy, losing Caden Wallace, that hurts a little bit. Uh, good bullpen arms cost though. So we had to give something up to get it, and I'm okay with it.
yeah, and Paul DeYoung does. Obviously not a long travel for him. Literally like 20 yards over to the other dugout, and dude looks really good in the Royals uniform. Not gonna lie. Made a couple nice defensive plays at third base today. I was questioning it. I was like, that's not an outfield bat, but it's a bat. They didn't necessarily think they needed outfield. Defensively, the Royals outfield solid. It's the bat.
When I think Isbell and Renfroe, the last few weeks, there's been an uptick in their batting, uh, which kind of diminished the need for it. Then you had, Melendez, love or hate him, he is a quality defensive outfielder with a little bit of pop in his bat still. But then you throw in the rotation guys like Hampson, Frazier, Blanco. I think he can make do. I think they went and addressed the bullpen arms, which pitching is always the most important, especially come meaningful baseball time.
Yeah, so now let's move on to the Cubs. I kind of like both these moves. I know you give up your bullpen arm and lighter to the Yankees, but let's talk about what could end up being probably one of the better trades uh, in acquiring Isaac Paredes.
That one hurt though.
Yeah, Christopher Morel was in that deal.
That's my boy.
And he just goes out and hits a home run yesterday for the Rays. I didn't get a chance to see what Paredes did if he was in the lineup. So it's not like the Cubs were sellers, but they weren't buyers. And I think, and it was a good point brought up when we were watching MLB Network the other day of teams, and they were talking about more teams need to treat the trade deadline as getting better also, right? So this is a chance for the teams who are kind of on the bubble and or not as competitive to load up. You can get MLB ready talent.
Yeah, and kind of what the Cubs did. You don't have to use a trade deadline just to get better at that season. If there's controllable assets on the trade market, why not get them?
You're getting an all-star third baseman who's under control for what, 8 years or 2028?
That's
so
like
4 years.
Yeah, 3 or 4 more years.
So I mean, and he's an all-star. He's an all-star third baseman. You're getting an upgrade in defense. You're definitely getting an upgrade. I know Morel doesn't hit very good average, but dude has pop. Whereas this guy is more of a contact, but he has some pop in his bat. That's a piece in your lineup that you can definitely build around.
Yeah, that one's just hard for me to dissect. Christopher Morel's been my boy forever, ever since MLB The Show had him looking like a little Ethiopian starving dude on their game. I don't buy many jerseys, and this is the reason, but one of the most recent jerseys I bought was a Christopher Morel City Connect jersey. So that one's going to have to hang up on my Starlin Castro jersey. But I do think it was an okay move. As much pop as Morel had in his bat, he didn't hit for a high enough average, and he statistically gave up runs defensively as well. From a team standpoint, it makes sense. They're the same age. Um, you are getting a little bit of an upgrade, even though it hurts my soul. The Mark Leiter one, I go back and forth. That's an elite level bullpen arm with years and years of team control. I'm okay with the return. I still think it could have been better. Uh, Usually, anyone with team control uh, that he has doesn't get dealt. You can usually get a decent return, um, but a good so far minor league and middle infielder and a lights out bullpen arm so far at every level of the minor leagues. Uh, at the very least, you get younger with that bullpen arm with the potential of another trade piece or infielder. So I get it. Um, I think the lighter, when they traded for Paredes, I thought they were going to make more moves to try to catch a wild card this year. But when they moved lighter, it was clear that it's not like they don't want to win now. They always want to win. But that made it clear that they're looking for 2025 and beyond at this point.
I mean, and there's still a lot of games left. They're still kind of hovering around. Um, I think it's obviously a tougher hill to climb to get into said wild card position and or division. Um, but I mean, crazier things have happened. You're getting some pieces back. I know Bellinger's back. You guys got to quit losing pitchers, honestly.
All year.
You did take 2 out of 3 from the Royals. You were stoked about that. They didn't blow the game that Imanaga pitched. He actually had a really good game, and we were like, well, but they held on for that one. Honestly, it was the one that I thought the Royals were going to struggle against that they didn't struggle against, and you said they wouldn't struggle against was Kyle Hendricks. It took them a couple innings, but once they kind of started figuring it out, they kind of tore him up a little bit. But Cubs look really good in the Royal Series. So, I mean, they got the pieces there. Not this year. I'd really look at them next year, see what they kind of do this offseason. I don't think they'll be wild spenders. They're not going to just spend to spend. They make their calculated moves and make sure that, you know, not to make the dumb signings on.
Well, and they're kind of set contract wise across the diamond, so there's not a whole lot that they can do.
They should be buying pitching,
Yeah,
bullpen.
yeah, bullpen. Our starters are fine. If
they
probably
stay
could
healthy.
get some depth,
Yeah.
that wouldn't hurt. But I mean, when you look at it, the outfield set with Happ, Bellinger, and Suzuki under contract for a while. The infield now with Paredes, Swanson, Horner, and Bush, all those signed for a while. I can see them making a run at an elite catcher at some point. We can't keep cycling through these DFA 30-plus-year-old catchers. Although Betancourt, since we've gotten him, has been huge. I think I just saw he had another RBI tonight already.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the one position player that's not really set. But then you look at the depth they have. Pete Crow is going to be the fourth outfielder, so no need to spend money there.
For going 1 for 21, he definitely tore the Royals up.
Yeah, and it's crazy that he's hitting like 180, but he still has like 30 steals on the season. So he's one of the ones where it's like, just try to get on base and fly, my guy. But fourth outfield set there, maybe depth infield, but they have an elite farm system to where they can just internally bring people up. So they're kind of a mystery. After this season, you don't want to think that they'll just go into the next year with the same people. But I think we're just hoping that we have good players. They're just unfortunately all underperforming at once. So yeah, it's disappointing. I had higher hopes. Even with the injuries, it's no excuse. Everyone gets injured or has injuries to deal with. But decent deadline. Still a loaded farm system. Still a lot of MLB talent. Just kind of a lost season.
Guess we'll transition over to the NFL. Obviously, we wanted it to be a trade deadline kind of episode, but in NFL style, fashion, we had a couple of huge signings over the last week since the last time we talked to you guys. Tua, big old Tua, signs a 4-year, $212.4 million extension, $167 million guaranteed. But wait, like 20, 30 minutes later, Jordan Love gets paid. Jordan Love gets a 4-year, $220 million contract worth 155. Ties him with Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow at 55 mil a year. Tua is now the fourth highest paid at 53.1. What do you think? I'll let you first because I do kind of have a thought on a couple of things on this.
Man, the quarterback market is wild. Um, it's I don't know. I don't know what to think. Um, it pays to pay these people early, I guess. I don't know. It's the markets. You always have to reevaluate in 2 years. Kind of like Patrick. A few years down the road, he's not even like a top 10 paid quarterback now.
Which he said it didn't matter to him.
No, like he still makes money. Like he's not hurting. Um, I I don't know how I feel about these contracts. I think I need more from Jordan Love. No disrespect, the dude balled out the second half. Uh, but his 1 year of experience, you now have a half season of bad and a half season of good. I don't know if I'm sold enough to put him contractually in that department. You're banking on it, but they know more than I do. So don't get me wrong, I think he's going to be good, but it's still wild to me that you can get that contract after half a good season. But uh, Tua, I get kind of. I don't. I'm not sold on him as a quarterback. Um, he's definitely a product of what's around him. Uh, he can't do what Patty just did this last year and find a way to make your team a little bit better and competitive with little to nothing around you. Um, but he has shown to be good with what is around him, so I guess keeping him makes sense. But I still think the 201 at some point before the end, we'll start having conversations about it being a contract of regret more so than we will love.
Yeah, I love the Jordan Love signing. I think I saw enough of him last year. I don't think he's going to step back too much. Tua, yeah, I'm not 100% sold on Tua. Um, just based on, I mean, the dude's accurate. I'll give him that. I know everyone talks about lack of arm strength. Cool, but I mean, he still gets it to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle when needed.
I
That's
just don't know if he's that guy though.
yeah, and I don't know. Obviously, time will tell. Um, I'm not quite on board with saying that we'll be talking about it maybe being one of the worst signings. Not yet. Let me see how the season kind of plays out. I do think Jordan Love wins a Super Bowl before Tua does. Obviously, I think he's in a better situation. Um, I I love watching Jordan Love play. I think he's going to be a great quarterback, and track record obviously with the Packers shows. Um, I just think that the Packers just keep rolling out quarterbacks after quarterback. Obviously, Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Um, so the fun stat was the 2020 NFL draft now has produced nearly 1.25 billion in quarterback contracts. Joe Burrow 5 years 275, Tua 4 years 212.4, Justin Herbert 5 years 262.5, Jordan Love 4 years 220, Jalen Hurts 5 years 255. Of those 5 quarterbacks, who you taking?
Joe Burrow. I don't even think it's close. Um, Obviously, the Bengals have kind of become the Chiefs' rivals over the last few years. Um, Bengals, Bills, uh, kind of the Ravens. Um, I don't really. I'm not sold on Hurts, Tua, Burrow, and Love. I'm okay with. I don't remember who the fifth one was.
Herbert.
Hmm. Let me see him with an actual good coach. I think talent-wise, he's the best. Uh, he just hasn't been unlocked yet. Uh, Let me see him a year or two with Harbaugh, and that answer might change. But uh, as weird and kind of douchey as Joe Burrow is, I'm still going to take him over everyone but Patty, honestly. So
Would you? Would you say Joe Burrow is probably the second best quarterback in the NFL?
Yes, I think second. Again, I think you have Patty, and then the battle for two is Burrow and Josh Allen. Josh does a little bit more with his arm or with his legs, but he also does a little bit more with turnovers. Um, but yeah, I think I would put Josh two or Joe two and Josh like a 2B. But yeah, I mean, either way, like that quarterback class got paid,
Yeah,
so somebody
they
thinks they're good.
did. I'm taking Herbert. The arm talent's there. I actually think he's gonna. I think honestly, it sucks to say. I think Jim Harbaugh is gonna get the best out of the Chargers. Um, I know we can talk about lack of receivers, lack of this. I still think Jim Harbaugh is gonna get the best out of that team. The more I think about them, I do think they are this obviously the clear cut number two in the West. But I think if they can get a couple pieces, I think they're closer. Make sure you're real closer, not overtaking, but I think they're closer to maybe dethroning the Chiefs in the next few years. Yeah, give me Herbert all day.
Yeah, talent standpoint, hell, he might even have more talent than Patty, like just pure talent. You pull in athleticism, arm talent, all of that.
Just got to keep him upright, and I think they did enough for that.
Well, and not even that, just like I guess a little disrespect to the coaches he's had, but like
Yeah,
he's been surrounded with dog shit, man. Um, and he still found a way to be a really damn good quarterback. I don't disagree. It's a quarterback league. So if Herbert reaches a level under Harbaugh that we think, I don't think they'll overtake the Chiefs. Uh, but there's no reason to think that it won't be one hell of a battle for a little bit for a few years. Um, but yeah, I mean, talent wise, I'm taking Herbert. Like if I kept the Chiefs and I needed to pick a quarterback to just replace Patty, I probably would take Herbert because he's getting what the Chiefs have with Andy. Um, yeah, I don't know. Herbert's really good. I hope Chargers find a way to charger. They got rid of the Chiefs killers at least with Keenan and Williams, so that helps. But yeah, that's a really good quarterback class. We're sitting here talking about we don't know how we feel about two quarterbacks in a class that has five Pro Bowler, $250 million players. Um, are we going to chalk this up to one of the better quarterback classes in the last 10 to 20?
I think Burrow and Hurts have kind of carried squads so far. Both have obviously went to Super Bowl. Both lost, obviously. You still like to see more. I mean, obviously, it's going to be dependent on Tua and Jordan Love. I think Herbert will get a Super Bowl at some point.
Nah.
Maybe. I still like the Chargers as long as they have Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh's one of the better coaches. Again, I think they're still going to put Herbert in a good position. I guess still receivers are questionable. But yeah, I mean, it could. I can't think of any other. I mean, you have Patty's class, but Mr. Trubisky's obviously a bust. Deshaun Watson's already declining. This year's quarterback class, maybe I don't see any I don't see a Patrick Mahomes in the class that just got drafted. You have Caleb Williams, who's obviously probably going to start day one. Jaden Daniels, day one. Leaning towards Bo Nix being day one. Do I think that they're going to rack up 1.25 billion? I mean, at the rate the quarterbacks are going, yes, maybe more. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to take this one as one of the better classes.
Yeah, I mean the last one I think it was the Manning, Rivers, and Roethlisberger, right? Now we can't look at it from a contract standpoint because the contracts have blown up since like 1923 when they were drafted, but that's the last like big time one. Like you've had a good quarterback here and there in some draft classes, but that's the last one I can think of that.
Well, stacked of them.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I don't like Rivers, that's three Hall of Famers, right? In that draft class, I mean, Manning, Rivers, and Roethlisberger, like that's three Hall of Famers. So, good for this draft class. Whether we agree with the contracts or not, like kudos for them for getting paid. I know winning is everything, and none of those quarterbacks have necessarily won anything yet, uh, but their bank accounts are. So,
My
uh,
bank account wants their bank account.
yeah, man, I'll go lose some games and whatnot for a quarter of a bill, but good for them. Never going to hate on them. They got their money. That's not. I guess it might be the most important thing, setting yourself up generational wealth, but um, it adds some pressure to these quarterbacks who have otherwise not proven anything yet. Curious to see how it goes. Kind of an underlying storyline to watch. How do this group of quarterbacks handle the pressure of big contracts?
Yeah, so we'll ask you guys, and we'll put the poll up on Instagram. Which one of those quarterbacks are you taking out of the 2020 class? Are you taking Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, or Jalen Hurts? Hopefully, we'll get some votes on there, and we'll kind of dive into that next week. One last thing I want to get to before we get off for the day. There was a report that came out about the new kickoff rule. I know we were kind of excited to see how teams were going to go about it, but apparently the new kickoff rule includes onside kicks are illegal before the fourth quarter. Teams must be losing to kick an onside kick, and the team must announce intentions to kick an onside kick ahead of time. What the fuck?
I honestly I've seen the uproar, but none of that hadn't already taken place. You teams don't.
You do give it away. There's times where you do come out of the second
Well,
half.
yeah, you have the rare occasion where you try to sneak an onside kick in the second quarter or coming out of the first half, but most of the time the team knew you were going to kick an onside. Most of the time it's because you were trailing. Like I don't know. I get so many rule changes. People are like, quit messing with the game, but I agree to that. But on this one, these things kind of already those unwritten rules already. Teams already knew. They're like, oh shit, you're gonna kick an onside. We already know, but now you just have to tell them. So this is a set of rules where I'm like, yeah, it's a rule change, but kind of already how the game went. So I don't know. I didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, I still am interested to see how the new kickoff stuff does happen. Honestly, it was going to be a lot harder to do your onside kicks with the way that things were, anyways. Uh, I still am excited.
Was it Patrick and the Chiefs who instead of an onside kick, he got a 4th and 20 play?
Yeah, the Chiefs wanted to do a fourth and
Wouldn't that be
25
fun?
or something. I think the 4th and 25 thing would be awesome. Obviously, the Chiefs.
They were the best 3rd and long team
Yeah, so
in football since Patty. But even a non-Chief standpoint, wouldn't that be more exciting than watching an onside kick?
yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to everyone complaining about the tush push. I mean, you don't like it, stop it.
See, that's me. I do think it's a bitch move, but stop it.
Yeah, so if it's 4th and 25,
It's not cheating.
yeah, no, it's not. And if it's 4th and 25 and team continuously gets it, well, that's just your fault. One,
Stop them.
it's 25 yards, so stop them. So I don't know. Maybe in the next few years we'll see that. They're talking about 18 game season, so that could be happening sooner rather than later. That's going to wrap it up this week. Again, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Come find us on Instagram. We'll put some polls on there. Get your guys' feedback. Just be interactive with you guys. Like I said, we're working on getting guests on here. We're excited about that. If you want to come on the show, find us on Instagram, message us, and we'll kind of give us a layout of what you want to talk about, and we'll kind of go from there. Again, if you're listening in the UK, come on the show. We want to hear about your experiences with football over across the pond. Next week, we're excited. We're going to do our preseason kind of awards. So we'll talk about MVPs, Rookie of the Years. Training camp's going. It sucks. Chiefs had 5 guys go down today. I don't think anything was serious. Denver lost Quinn Bailey, broken ankle. That was serious, and that was our 6th offensive lineman. Hopefully that doesn't come back to hurt. But we'll dive into some offseason or preseason awards next week. Maybe talk a little training camp. So until next week, we'll talk to you guys then.